Hi guys, my name is Emily. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about In the Hand of the Goddess, the second book in the Song of the Lioness series by Tamora Pierce. So this is part of a sort of reread project that I've started for myself unofficially, in which I am rereading my favorite childhood books. I am a huge Tamora Pierce fan, and I have reread these books over and over again, some of them more than others though. And so what I would like to do this time is to read all of her books in publication order as an adult, just to see if my thoughts have changed. So one of the things that I'm noticing reading them again is that they jump around in time quickly, because when I read them as a kid, they were all out, but I read them a lot slower because I was a slower reader. I was like 9 or 10, right? If it took me several nights to finish a book, those gaps sort of were more reasonable. But as an adult, I have only ever binge read the books all in one sitting. I haven't taken the time to spread out my reading the way I did when I was a kid. So what I am noticing now, like having read one book and leaving a little bit of time in between and like still reading one book all in one sitting, is the experience is different. When I was a kid, dividing it up each night, the gaps in time made sense, like it flowed with my logic. As an adult, binge reading the series in a day, I just sort of skipped past it because you're covering several years of Alana's life in one day. But combining these things, reading a single book in one day and not reading the whole series with it, I'm finding it harder to accept the large jumps in time. P.S. because this is a sequel, it will contain spoilers for the first book. Alana spends 4 years as John's squire, and I kept finding the jumps in time much more abrupt than I remembered. Like all of a sudden, like something would happen, you'd read a chapter and all of a sudden Alana is 16, and then you'd read another 2 chapters, Alana is 17, you read another 2 chapters, she's suddenly 18, and the book's over. And so like, that's an interesting thing that I probably wouldn't have noticed if I wasn't reading them spread out this way as an adult. I still really do like the story, I like the characters, I like the things that are happening, although I really wish that a lot of this was more fleshed out, because I think there are a lot of really interesting things happening. Like in this book, Alana decides to spend some time masquerading as a woman in the city, learning about hair and makeup and clothes and behaving like a noble lady, which is something that she totally rejected in her childhood. She did not want that life of dresses and looking pretty. But suddenly she has this sort of interest in performing her femininity, and I think that's really cool that she's in the position to either accept or reject the performance of her gender. So it's not expected that she behave in a normative manner, and she doesn't wish to behave in a normative manner all the time, but rather it's something that she can choose. I think these scenes really get to the performative nature of gender. Like all along, Alana is a girl, Alana identifies as a girl or a woman as she gets older, but her clothing and her actions don't really define her girlness, if that makes sense, which is something I really, really appreciate. Something that really struck me this time is the magic and how magic works, because we get a little bit more about magic in Tortal. Something that has never really interested me before about this series is the institutionalized magic. I have read this series countless times and sort of breezed past the fact that some humans go to the university to learn magic. We know that Tom and Alana switched places so Tom could go learn magic. We know that Numair from the Immortals is university educated, and we know that Neil from Protector of the Small leaves a university education to pursue the knight training. So that there is an established magical institution is something that I've not picked up on before, but I am super curious about now. So at one point Tom actually tells us about how he played dumb all along until he took his written exams and he blew the masters away. And then he took a sort of physical exam in which he had to perform the magic itself. So we know that magic has written rules. There is theory behind the magic, and I'm absolutely fascinated by that idea, because the people that we see using their gift most often, Alana, like we see from her perspective, they don't have sort of formal magical training. they sort of intuitively use their gift. And Alana's biggest magic always happens when she calls upon the goddess to sort of guide her, to work through her. So Alana never really has formal training to do big magic. So what I'm noticing this time is how interesting the magic is there and that it's on the periphery. Also, that men are the ones getting formal educations in magic. I can't think of any woman within the series who has a formal magical education. Now, whether that's because in general women in Tortall are accepted as healers, so maybe women do get formal magical training in a like all-female space, I don't know. But I am so curious about magic and gender, just because Alana and Kel and Cait eventually will do great things to break down the barriers between women and defense, women and warrior status, but we don't really see what is going on with gender and magic. And that is something that I am super curious about moving forwards, because I know that there is available for pre-order a book on Numaire's story. And I'm hesitant about this Numaire book because I know that Pierce has been talking about this for ages and she has promised so many things, and I am wary of getting my hopes up, because just because something is available for pre-order doesn't mean that it happens for real. But I've got my fingers crossed that this is a thing that will come into fruition, and that spending some time with Numaire will answer some of my questions about gender and magic. I'm also really excited to get to the third book in the series, because I remember if I was binge reading the whole series, I put up with it, but oftentimes I would read books 1 and 2 and 4, and I would skip book 3 because I didn't really like it. But this time I'm looking forward to reading book 3 because of my newfound interest in magic, because here Alana becomes a teacher for some Bashir children. I'm not really sure if that's how you pronounce it, but that's how I'm pronouncing it. I know there's a pronunciation guide in The Protector of the Small Books. I should really look up how to pronounce things. So I'm curious to see what somebody with no formal education does to teach magic. So I am very much looking forward to the third book in the series. These have been sort of my reflections on the book. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts on gender and magic in Tortall are. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye.